So there's a place in the Mojave Desert called ZZYZX. Try saying that out loud. ZZYZX. It feels strong in your mouth, right? That's because it was invented by a man named Curtis Springer in 1944. He literally made up the word. He wanted it to be the very last word in the dictionary, so nobody would forget it. Now, Springer was not a real doctor. He just called himself one. He was a radio preacher, a salesman, and a guy who knew how to talk people into things. He found a natural spring in the desert and built a half resort around it. Palm trees, a small lake, even a fake stone castle. He called it ZZYXX, Mineral Springs and a half spa. And people actually came. For almost 30 years, people drove in the middle of nowhere to soak in the water and buy the strange health products. He had a radio show that reached over 300 stations. The guy was basically a desert celebrity. But of course it was all fake. The products didn't do anything. The medical claims were lies. In 1974, the FDA came after him. He went to prison. The resort shut down. Now, the place is still there. The palm trees are alive. The lake still has water. But it's not a spa anymore. It's a research center where college students study desert ecology. They sleep in the same rooms where people once looked for miracle cures. The last word in the dictionary is now just a quiet science tension in the sand. Okay, this one is just strange. For years, a telephone booth stood in the middle of the Mojave Desert. Not near a road, not near a building, just there. It was miles from the nearest town. Nobody knows who put it there, maybe for miners on ranches. But the booth sat there, connected to a working phone line for decades, and nobody used it. Then in the late 1990s, someone put the number on the internet, and the world went a little crazy. People from all over the planet started calling that number just to hear it ring in the desert. Imagine sitting at home in Japan or Germany, dialing the number and knowing that somewhere in the emptiness of Mojave, a phone is ringing. Some people actually drove out there, found the booth and waited. Sometimes the phone rang and they answered. A complete stranger from another continent talking to them through a payphone in the sand. Just why? No reason. Just because. Too many people started visiting. The phone company got worried and moved this booth in 2000. The number was disconnected. Now there's nothing there, just an empty spot. But if you know the coordinates, you can stand there and almost imagine the sound, a ring and fun, far from everything. In the town of Landers, near Joshua Tree, there's a big white dome. It looks like something from a 1950s sci-fi movie, and honestly, the story behind it just weird. The dome was built by a man named George Van Tassel. He was an aircraft mechanic who worked for Howard Hughes. But then he moved to a desert and got really into UFOs, like really into them. He started hosting UFO conventions near a giant boulder called Giant Rock. Thousands of people came. Van Tassel claimed that in 1953 he was contacted by a being from the planet Venus, and this being gave him instructions for building a machine that could rejuvenate human cells, slow down aging, and maybe even manipulate time itself. He called it the integratron. the Integratron. He called it the Integratron. He spent 18 years building this thing. It's a wooden dome, 38 feet high, built without any nails. He had never finished it. He died in 1978. The time machine never worked. But here's the thing, the dome is still standing, and people go there for sound baths. The acoustic inside are weirdly perfect. When someone plays crystal balls, the sound hangs in the air longer than it should. Is it a time machine? No, but there is something about the building that feels strange, like it's waiting for something. This one is almost sad. California City is the third largest city by area in the entire state, over 200 square miles. But almost nobody lives there. In 1958, a developer named Ned Mendelsohn bought a massive piece of desert. He had a vision, a new city that could compete with Los Angeles. He drew a grid of 1,000 streets. He paved many of them. He gave them names. He planned for hundreds of thousands of people. And then nobody came. The water supply was too limited. The jobs were too far away. The dream just never happened. Now, if you look at the aerial photo, you see a giant grid carved into the sand. It looks like the skeleton of a city. In one corner, there's a small cluster of houses where a few thousand people actually live. The rest is just empty roads that go nowhere. Intersections never no car stops. Imagine driving there. You turn onto a paved street with a name like Catalina Boulevard. You drive for miles. Nothing on either side, just desert. And then the road just ends. You are standing at the edge of the city that was never born. Okay, now we're going a little deeper. These places aren't just old. They are structures that make you ask, why did anyone do this? Tunnel in the Mojave Desert. It goes through solid granite, half a mile long. One man dug it alone. It took him 32 years. His name was William Schmidt. Everyone called him Burrow because he's the tomb of burrows to allow the rogue. He started in 1906 with pick and a shovel. Later he used dynamite, but always by himself. Just a man in the mountain. Now here's the part that doesn't make any sense. By the time he finished this tunnel in 1938, a new road had already been built around the mountain. His tunnel was useless, a shortcut to nowhere. Schmidt knew this, but he kept digging anyway, for years. Why? Nobody knows. Maybe he couldn't stop. Maybe the digging became the only thing that mattered. Today you can walk through the tunnel. It's cold and dark. Water drips from the ceiling. You can still see the marks of his tools. The whole place feels like a monument to pure people, stubbornness. A hole in a mountain that nobody needed, built by a man who gave his whole life to it. High up in the Inyo Mountains, there's a line of old steel towers. They march across the peaks and valleys. They are rested and silent now, but they were once part of something insane. In 1911, someone decided to move south across the mountains, not with trucks, not with trains, through the air. They built a cable system that carried packets of salt over the bridges. The line was 13 miles long. It crossed more than 7,000 feet of elevation. The towers were placed on remote ridges where there was no roads. just rock, sky, and wind. For years, those pockets moved slowly high above the canyons. Then the tram stopped. Trucks became cheaper, the cables were slack, but the towers stayed. In 2024, one of the towers fell. Not from a storm, not from age. A guy got his truck stuck in the mud. He tied a cable to the 113-year-old tower and used it to pull himself out. The tower collapsed. It has survived over a century of desert heat and wind, and one dumb decision destroyed it. The sound must have echoed for miles, but no one was there to hear it. Imagine you are driving through the Mojave Desert on the way to Las Vegas. Hot, dry, nothing for miles, and then you see it, a water park, brightly colored slides twisting into the air. But there is no water, no people, no sound, just silence. This place opened in the 60s as an artificial lake. Later it became a water park with slides and pools. It was renamed Rockahula at one point. Closed and reopened under different names over the years, each time hoping this time would be different. It never was. The last closure was in 2004. The problem was simple. Water evaporates insanely fast in the desert. The bills were huge. The park couldn't make money. Now the slides are covered in graffiti. The pools are cracked and dry, and only visitors are photographers and curious travelers who want to see a water park with no water. At sunset, the light hits the old slides and makes them glow for a moment like a memory of something that used to be fun. In the 1940s, the Kaiser Company found iron in the desert. They didn't just build a mine, they built a whole town. Houses, schools, a shopping center, a swimming pool, everything's family needed. At its peak, several thousand people lived there. It was a real community. Then the iron ran out. The mine closed in the early 1980s. The company shut down the town. People moved away, the houses were left empty. But the story doesn't end there. Later, someone turned part of the abandoned town into a prison, a minimum security facility. Inmates lived and worked right there among the old family homes. In 2003, a riot broke out. 2 prisoners were killed. The prison closed shortly after. Now that the town is empty again, the mine is a giant hole in the ground visible from space. The houses are falling apart. The swimming pool is cracked. Eagle Mountain has been abandoned twice, first by miners, then by prisoners. It just sits there now, waiting for a third act that probably won't come. We're going deeper. This place isn't just abandoned. The land itself is sick. The water is poisoned. The air is wrong. California's largest lake was created by accident. In 1905, the Colorado River broke through a canal. For 2 years, water poured into a dry desert basin. When they finally stopped it, a new inland sea was left behind. It was never supposed to be there. In the 1950s and 60s, people turned this accident into a paradise. Marinas, hotels, yacht clubs. Celebrities like Frank Sinatra came here. It was called the River of the West. People water skied under the desert sun. But the sea has no outlet. Water flows in, but the only way out is evaporation. Over time, salt and chemical built up. The water became toxic. Fish started dying by the millions. The smell of bad fish was so bad that people miles away could smell it. Tourists stopped coming. Resorts closed. Now the sea is shrinking. The dry lake bed turns into toxic dust that blows into nearby towns. People living there have high rates of asthma and other lung problems. At the edge, there's a place called Bombay Beach. Abandoned trailers, rusted boats, strange art installations. It looks like aftermath of a disaster movie, except it's real and it's still happening. In a remote canyon in Death Valley, there is a small house. It was built in the 1930s by a family that wanted to be far away from everyone. It had a spring for water, a windmill for electricity. The isolation was the whole point. In the late 1960s, a group of people came to live there. They followed a man named Charles Manson. They chose Barker Ranch because it was almost impossible to find. No rats, no neighbors, no one could hear anything. Manson believed in an apocalyptic race where he called Helter Skelter. He thought the desert would be a safe base. The group hid there while they committed terrible crimes in Los Angeles. When law enforcement finally raided the ranch in 1969, they found stolen vehicles, weapons, and a group of people living in a violent fantasy. In 2009, the main house burned down, probably a cursed visitor. Now only a few stone walls remain. But if you stand in that canyon, the silence is heavy. The history of that happened there still hangs in the air. The desert keeps secrets, but it also listens. There's a place in far northern California called Lava Beds National Monument. Under the ground there are more than 800 caves. They were formed by flowing lava thousands of years ago. One of these caves is called Catacombs. It starts easy, you can walk upright, but then the ceiling drops. You have to bend, then crawl. The passage gets tighter and tighter. Some sections are less than 12 inches high. You have to pull yourself forward on your stomach. You cannot turn around. You can only go forward. The National Park Service warns that this cave is extremely difficult. You need multiple light sources. If your light falls, the darkness is absolute. There is no natural light at all. The only sound is your own breathing and your heartbeat. You feel the weight of the entire mountain above you. If you wanted to know what it feels like to be buried alive, it's pretty close. In the hills of San Benito County, there is a ghost town called New Idria. It was built around a mercury mine. Mercury is also called quicksilver. It was valuable for gold mining and weapons. The mine operated for over 100 years. But it closed in the 1970s. The company just left. No cleanup, nothing. They walked away and left the tunnels open. Water started flowing through those old mine shafts. The water mixed with mercury and other toxic metals. It turned orange and acidic. It leaked into nearby creeks and into the soil. The EPA calls it a Superfund site. This means that one of the most contaminated places in the country. The old buildings are still there, a hotel, a school, wooden houses. They look normal from a distance, but the ground around is poisonous. The water cannot be drunk. The cleanup will take decades and cost millions of dollars. Now we are getting into places where serious things happened. These aren't just abandoned or polluted. These are places with heavy history. In 1942, after Pearl Harbor, the U.S. government forced about 120,000 people of Japanese ancestry to leave their homes. Most of them were American citizens. They were sent to camps in a remote part of the country. Tule Lake, up near the Oregon border, was one of the biggest. At its peak, almost 19 people lived there. 74 blocks of barracks, guard towers, barbed wire, military police with guns. In 1943 it got worse. Tule Lake became a segregation center. Prisoners who were labeled disloyal were sent there. The label came from a confusing loyalty questionnaire. Many prisoners refused to answer, not because they were disloyal, but because questions were insulting. They were locked in a separate area behind extra fences inside a jail without a jail. After the war, the camp was dismantled. The buildings were removed. Today only a few foundations and the old chain remain. It's now a national monument. It looks like empty grassland. It's hard to imagine that thousands of people once lived there against their will in their own country. There's a hill near Monterey Bay. It looks completely normal. Green grass, wildflowers. You'll never guess what's underneath. Fort Ord was an army base for most of the 20th century. Soldiers trained here with real weapons, artillery shells, rockets, grenades. The base has an 8,000-acre firing range, and now all of this explosive detonated. Some just buried themselves in the dirt. They are still there. The base closed in 1994. Much of the land became public open space. Hikers, bikers, people walking their dogs, but a large area is still contaminated with unexploded bombs. They are old, rusted, and unstable. A wrong step could still set one off. The Army and EPA have been cleaning it for decades. Workers use metal detectors and robots to find and destroy the old weapons. Some areas are still closed. Sign warn: if you see something metal, do not touch it. Call the authorities. Just outside Los Angeles, in the hills between the valley and Simi Valley, there was a secret lab. In the 1950s and 1960s, they tested rocket engines here. They also operated a small experimental nuclear reactor called the Sodium Reactor Experiment. In July 1915, something went wrong. The coolant inside the reactor stopped flowing. The fuel overheated. 13 of the 43 fuel assemblies were damaged. Radioactive particles leaked inside the building. The reactor didn't explode. The main container held, but the accident had already happened. Here's the part that makes people angry. Nobody told the nearby community. The details were kept secrets for years. Los Angeles continued as normal just over the hills, unaware that the nuclear accident had happened so close. Today, the site is being cleaned up. There are still arguments about how much contamination remains and whether it caused health problems. The accident was small compared to Chernobyl, but it happens on the edge of a major city, and the secrets left a scar of distrust that still's there. Off the coast of Southern California, there is an island owned by the U.S. Navy. It's a testing range for missiles and radar. No visitors allowed. But long before the Navy, a woman lived there, alone. In 1835, the native people of the island were moved to the mainland. One woman was left behind. Nobody knows her real name. She's called the Lone Woman of San Nicolas Island. She survived there completely alone for 18 years. She built a hut from whale bones. She caught fish. She watched the horizon. When she was finally found in 1853, she was brought to Santa Barbara. She died 7 weeks later. Nobody could speak her language. Her words died with her. Today, that same island is full of radar antennas, tracking stations, and military vehicles. The beaches where she walked are now inside a restricted zone, a place of total solitude, now a place of high-tech warfare. We have reached the bottom of the iceberg. These are places you can just drive to. Some are behind fences, some are deep underwater. They are invisible to most people, but they are real. There's a place near the city of Tracy in the dry hill east of San Francisco. It's called Site 300. Just a number, no name. It's surrounded by fences and security. It's run by Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. Site 300 covers about 7,000 acres. This is where they test high explosives, not nuclear bombs, but the conventional explosives that are part of nuclear weapons. The triggers, the detonators. They create such extreme pressure that solid metal flows like a liquid. They use cameras that capture images in microseconds. From the outside, it looks like any range, dry grass, oak trees, rolling hills. But inside, these are concrete bunkers, firing chambers, massive machines. The work is secret. The explosions happen. The ground shakes. And if you drive past the nearby road, you would never know. Inside the US Navy China Lake Weapons Testing Base, there's one of the largest collections of ancient rock art in North America. More than 20,000 petroglyphs are carved into the black volcanic stone. Big horn ship, human figures, strange symbols. They are thousands of years old. China Lake is a massive military installation, over a mile in acres. It's used for testing missiles, bombs, and other weapons. The rock art is a national historic landmark, but you can't just drive there. It's inside a restricted zone. You need a military escort. So if you have an ancient art, between Los Angeles and Catalina Island, there is a vast field of toxic waste on the ocean floor. For decades, a company called Montrose Chemical made DDT, a powerful pesticide. But DDT is also a persistent poison. It doesn't break down. It builds up in living creatures. It causes cancer. Montrose produced millions of gallons of acid waste contaminated with DDT, and for years, they took it out to sea and dumped it. A legend grew that 27,000 barrels of DDT were sitting nearly at the seafloor. But the truth is more complicated. The EPA found that the company often didn't use physical barrels. The word barrels was just a unit of measurement. Much of the waste was simply poured directly from barges into the water. In recent years, scientists use sonar and underwater radars to map the area. They covered more than 36,000 acres. They found over 27,000 objects that look like barrels and over 100,000 other pieces of debris. The contaminated area is larger than San Francisco, and the DDT is still in the food chain. Small creatures absorb it. Fish eat them. Bigger animals eat the fish. It's been found in dolphins, sea lions, and birds.